We'll just start talking and then, right. Hello, welcome to the Great British Escapades preview show. I'm Dan. I'm just a very over-enthusiastic first-time attempter at the Great British Escapades, but I'm here with a very cool bunch of people. We've got our Punisher-in-Chief, Mr. Kevin Francis, who has devised this wonderful, torturous route for us. We're also joined by Marcia Roberts, who is the organiser of the Southern Divide, and also we've now learnt something. You're a Dot Watcher commentator as well, Marcia. So
yes, I've done the commentary for the Divide, Kevin's Divide so far. Yeah.
So Marcia will be spotting who gets around first in about 25 hours or something bonkers like that at this rate. Not with a headwind. We've got Neil Copeland, who is a multiple escapader, 2 times GB Divide. Is it, Neil?
No, just one GB
just
Divide.
The one.
That was enough.
That was enough, wasn't it, Neil?
And as this year founded the Dot Booster Academy, which just finished this weekend, didn't it, Neil?
Last weekend.
Was in the week in Wales, which was like great fun.
The world's first dedicated ultra cycling training camp that I run in collaboration with a fellow ultra cycling coach, Yasmin Muller.
Fantastic. And last but not least, I did this in alphabetical order, Rob, just of first names like they do on Taskmaster because I'm obsessed with that. And Rob, who is a multiple Escapader GB divider.
One-time finisher of Escapade.
One-time finisher, amazing. And organiser of, I'm going to get to the perfidious Albion Wild West Country, which is another one of the UK ultra cycling races that happened just last weekend, wasn't it, Rob? Right?
2 weeks ago now. Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
time's gone really fast.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd sort of talk to our 3 event organisers first of all, Neil, and then you can pitch in with bits if you want as well. Neil's just left. He's just gone. He's disappeared. He'll be back. Hopefully.
Perfect timing.
That was a really good start there. That was okay. I've just alienated one of the guests. Got solid. Right. Oh, good. Hopefully Neil's going to come back.
I thought that was work in technology. I'm pretty useless sometimes.
I thought that was a walkout, Neil, because I said I'm going to talk to the other people first, and then you just disappeared.
You see, I thought you just chucked him out till it was his turn.
Oh no, it was a bit like the students at my school. They just walk out of the room sometimes because my lessons are interesting.
This one's obsessed with team calls, so
hello.
He has to say hello to everybody.
I think my cat's under the table as well but he's just sitting under there because there's nothing outside. At some point, he'll probably walk in front of the screen like they always do. So we have got this fast-growing bikepacking race event community that's happening over here in the UK at the moment. So Southern Divide, Perfidious Albion, Great British Escapades, the Divide as well. And the question I want to ask you, you 3, and Neil, you involved in this as well. They're all new events, really. When it's obviously got a new thing, but they're all new events to the calendar. And what have you learned from putting together a route, putting together the event? And if there's anyone who ends up watching this and thinks, "Well, I think I could plan a route and offer it to people, and they could have a go at it," what would you suggest?
Go on, I'll start first then.
Go on, Marcia.
All that. So I decided to do it actually after attempting to ride the Great British Escapade, the really, 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 really wet one. And
narrow it down.
Yeah, the really wet one. The one that was really wet.
The really wet one.
June 21.
That's the one. It was
3 months of rain in 10 hours.
It was my birthday, and I was wading up to my knees in mud and stuff. But it was my first time at doing a off-road ultra, and I just loved it. I loved the whole vibe. I loved the way it was put together. I loved how chilled out everything was. I mean, Kevin wasn't very chilled out because he was trying to manage us lot, but everybody else, the whole vibe of the event was very chilled out, even though we knew the weather was going to be foul. And I've been wanting to organise events for a while, and I thought I'd love to organise one that is the kind of ride that I would like to do, which was like similar to the Escapades. It's kind of ride I would like to do, but try to make it gravel bike friendly. I liked the vibe. I liked also, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to showcase the south of England, because most of the big ultra events that you've got, they're all kind of based up north, and there seems to be this perception in the ultra world that you've got to go up north to get a really great bikepacking ultra, and that's rubbish. And I think, you know, all three of us here, I think we've proved that there's some fantastic biking to be had, whether it's on road or off road, across the south of England. And in my case, I wanted to showcase everything across the south, so I included, so mine literally goes from Land's End to London.
Yeah.
And it's a ride of about 3 completely different characters as it goes round. And I wanted to just make something, if it was female-led, female organiser, maybe it would attract more women into ultra cycling, because there's still not enough women. I'm still working on that bit, but I did have women enter, and only one scratched this year, so that was really good. But that's why I decided to actually put an event together.
Brilliant.
Rob, it worked really well.
Awesome. They got through. There was some interesting weather, wasn't it? It was just that back end of all that. Finally, the water draining away and a few sloppy bits.
Yeah, but, well, there was some very sloppy bits. I'm sure Kevin was laughing inside.
It's like revenge.
Because I was definitely getting a taste of But we didn't have any rain on the event, which I think is why there weren't that many scratchers, because they were prepared to wade through mud and through water if they weren't getting rained on from above, I think. Yeah. So, it helped.
And then, Rob, the Wild West Country is a different one to Southern Divide and Escapades, because it's a road event. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, but then the original event was the Perfidious Albion, the full length one, which does get start in the north, so I'm slightly betraying my southern roots there. Starts in Scotland and heads south, and that was the route I put together first. And I think that was just kind of an accident. Like, I was furloughed, and one of my friends was entered into TCR, and that was cancelled. And as a joke, I was like, well, we could just put on a race. Why not? And then a couple of days later, like, actually, why not? I've not got anything going on. This was in 2021, I think it was. So that just completely was maybe a one-off, and then actually really enjoyed it. Not so much sure about the riders. So I think the one thing I would say is that was definitely too hard. And that's probably the route was, I didn't have time to go and recce it full. So I combined a lot of rides I'd done previously. It turns out if you put together a bunch of really hard rides, you get one colossally hard ride. And there was a heat wave. And I think you have to remember that it doesn't matter how easy you make a route. Like, look at further east, which is the flattest route probably in the UK. People still destroy themselves racing it. So people will always go hard. So you only have to make it hard enough to create some interest, to break up the field a little bit, because you don't want everyone just riding as a bunch. So a few hills near the beginning, I think is good to do to spread people out. I know Neil doesn't like the way I phrased that previously, but I think I said thinning the bunch. That's not what I mean. I think breaking things up is good. It's a good way. But yeah, I'd say that trying to make routes that are challenging but achievable is the biggest difficulty in the UK, because people also ride to numbers, and they'll ride based on what they think, how difficult they think a route should be. If they've ridden, say, in France or Spain or Italy, and they're like, oh yeah, it's got 20,000 meters of climbing and 1,000 kilometers, that's fine. It's like, yeah, but when every climb is at 15% plus, that's not fine, because you're going to the red on every single climb, and you're losing all your speed on the descent, because they're all technical, whether it's road or off-road, to be honest, in the UK. So I think UK riding is really hard, and people don't acknowledge that, and you have to, I think, pare back the routes. And now I've tried to make mine so that there's sections where it eases off a little bit and you get a bit of recovery without it being really, because no one wants to go and just like do the Midlands. Like, you've got to kind of keep it interesting, but also keep it achievable. So that's kind of what I've learned, I think.
Brilliant. Neil, on these, you've got Kevin. I'm going to come to you in a moment because I'm going to ask you some more questions about the observatory. Neil, you've had quite a few of your what's the word? Tutees, students, athletes. That's the word. Sorry, I was trying to think of your acolytes, your Padawan. I'm trying to think of the right word. That have been in quite a few of these events, and I know you helped Marcia on Southern Divide, didn't you, with checkpoints and stuff as well. Was there any advice that you were sort of giving them? Or anything they were asking you? Obviously, don't give away stuff for free, obviously, because I know it's part of your business. But is there anything you feel like there was an overall theme from them?
I mean, I think ultimately it's fairly simple. Don't go too fast. Keep eating, and try not to stop too much. And it seems so simple, but I think people do need to understand the ultra racing mindset versus kind of like the normal riding mindset. The normal riding mindset is, how do I cover 6 hours as fast as I possibly can? Whereas when you extend that out to 36 hours, 48 hours, 6 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever, you have to factor in stopping time, rest time. So it becomes a slightly different mindset and a slightly different strategy. So encouraging people to think about how fast they go and maximizing their time on the bike rather than their speed on the bike is really, really important. And then, yes, eat all the things all the time. Always, I always say ABE, always be eating. Have you ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross? Very famous film. Always be closing. The guy says always be closing. So it's like that. Always be eating. Always be eating.
Awesome. I've just baked a load of flapjacks in the oven, so they're just cooling off at the minute and hoping that they're going to be my race fuel come Thursday. Kevin, let's go on to the Escapade then. This is edition six of the Escapade, and every single one has been. It's almost like the Friends episodes. The one with the rain, the one with the extreme heat. This one appears to be the one with the nettles, by the sound of things. And the wind.
We've had nettles before.
We've had nettles. We're looking like this is the one with the wind or something.
Yeah, nettles came with the really wet one as well. Wet nettles.
Wet nettles.
Nobody likes wet nettles.
I fell in some.
Oh no, wet nettles are not as bad as dry nettles.
Let's rewind to the very first one, which was, apart from a bit of a headwind down the South Downs Way, was nearly perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Second one was just apocalyptically wet and horrible, and we had 13 finish out of nearly 8 start on that, and most of whom had run out of brake pads, pretty much, or the will to live, or both. And it was extraordinary, that one. I mean, that was it was something crazy, like 3 months worth of rain in 10 hours, and it started at midnight.
About midnight, yeah.
And it didn't really stop until on the midnight on the Thursday going into Friday, and it was still going at sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the Friday. It was just horrendous, that one.
I remember watching your videos, Neil. You were doing the little live updates, weren't you? And there was the one of you going across the Medway Bridge, and you were just like, "It's really wet. This is the hardest." It was like the hardest thing I've ever done, or something like that.
Well, to be honest, I think I say that about every race I go and do. But yeah, I do. It's fact. But yeah, that was wet. That was really wet. Yeah. I think I remember coming into like checkpoint 1 at Box Hill, or just after Box Hill, and I'd hit the deck a couple of times. It was covered in mud, and it was hammering it down with rain. It was just miserable.
I've got a picture of Neil sat on the side of my van. And you just see his legs out of it, and it looks like he's got tights on rather than bib shorts. You were just covered.
I mean, I loved it. I loved it up until the point where I realised that I'd completely underestimated how much the weather was going to impact things, and I was going to have to spend 2 nights out on the road. And then my brakes went, and to be honest, I was probably looking for an excuse to pull out.
Yeah, it was. It was grim. And then I'm trying to think, that was June 21. September was all right. You did that one, I think, Neil, and you finished 3rd again on that one.
Yeah.
And then
Better weather.
last June was really good with the weather. That's when we had our fastest time set.
That
so
depends
far.
on how long you were on the route.
That's true.
Because I got baked in the first half, and then I got stuck up on the South Downs Way in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, that is true. The Saturday was pretty cool up there. Yeah, because
I'm not fastest.
If you were done in 26 hours, it was all quite pleasant weather-wise.
Yeah.
Nothing else, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the human missile version of the Great British Escapades. That some of the photos of some of the people's bikes already look like they are just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And
in terms of, the Escapade was born out of, I was always going to do it, but it was born out of boredom during lockdown, really, more than anything else. The corporate event world had a very hard stop in February of that year. It was becoming screamingly obvious that the divide couldn't happen. And I just started thinking, all right, well, we were going to get a sweet spot in the autumn to do something. And flung it together really quickly and ended up with best part of 50 riders rocked up and had a go. And it was brilliant to do. Learned a lot in a very short space of time. I've got the advantage of obviously running, multi-million-pound program of events for thousands of people. So that side of things doesn't faze me, and yet learned so much about running a cycling event for a fairly small number of people in quick order, and that continues. You never stop learning, right? Even on the big corporate programs, we do, and it's sort of honed and developed over 5 editions so far of the Escapade and 2 of the Divide, and the Escapade's not really changed very much. I think it remains a good blend of everything, really, and it's hard, but it remains a good introduction, I think, to doing these things. And the Divide evolved from edition 1 to edition 2. To Rob's point, really, with it was too hard the first edition, and what I've done with the route now is just softened it up slightly. Still a bloody challenge, that's for sure, but it's just made it far more complete. Sorry, the dogs are having a scuffle in the background.
It was your dog, was it?
Never work with children or dogs.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really interesting but very good fun pathway through, and we've seen hundreds of riders through now on those events, some of whom have come back multiple times, some not, obviously, but then there seems to be a good pipeline of new people. And what's really nice is you've seen people doing my events, doing Marcia's events, doing Rob's events as well. And I think certainly it was always my goal to create something that just had a really nice culture and feel to it, that it was serious, but it wasn't too serious and too full of itself, where people can rock up and have a go and feel comfortable doing it, and don't feel that they've got to be someone that is going to do a sub 26 hour time, for example. And it's something for everyone within that. So, if you want to turn yourself inside out and do it as quickly as possible, fill your boots. If you want to come and have the full experience and take, the whole 74 hours on the Escapade, for example, do, and you'll have a great time. You'll see loads of things that the person that goes really quickly won't see or won't experience. So yeah, and I'm happy with what we've created as that sort of the vibe and what have you, which, as Marcia said, that was what sort of appealed to her as well. And it's nice to hear that that's what I wanted, and we seem to be getting it as well.
I think one thing that makes us all, I could be wrong about Rob, but I think definitely for myself and Kevin's events, is they're not races.
You're right, it's not a race.
They're adventures, they're a ride. So there's no prizes for coming first. Yeah, okay, you get the knowledge that you came first and maybe you've done it faster than anybody else. But it's not a race. And I think for some people, especially if it's their first one, I think that actually helps quite a lot, because it's like going out and doing an Audax or going out and doing a sportive or something like that, just bigger and harder.
Yeah.
And muddier. Generally,
Yes.
You can never help but be impressed of the person that goes super quickly. You know, these are amazing superhuman achievements, and I get excited and interested in that, obviously, but I get just as excited and interested about the person that scrapes in at the end, that's probably worked a damn sight harder on a pro rata basis than the person that's come first, but has ground it out and has really, battled through all of those things that, we probably appeal to us in terms of riding and indeed organising ultras, of just what people can and will do. And yeah, I think having that environment which makes it comfortable for everybody, then it breeds that. There's more and more people will come in and again feel comfortable to have a go, and will probably do okay.
Some of the best stories come from those that are out longer as well.
I'll have a lot of stories to tell in that case. Yeah. And so Neil, Kevin, sorry, we've got 130-ish people.
Yeah, I think I've got the spreadsheet open on my other screen here where we've had a few people drop out. I think we'll be, I think, 115, 120, something like that.
And then what's the sort of the split of like new people and people who've come back for another go? Do you know rough? You might not even know that question. I don't know.
It's probably about 25% people that I've seen before, but the rest are newbies.
We're all completely ignorant.
Doing the divide that using this as a bit of a shakedown and a training ride as well. There's a few of those in amongst the number, and some people that maybe did the first one have come back now for edition 6 as well, which is quite nice to see.
And Rob and Neil, you went out and you both finished quite close together, didn't you? Kevin was telling me, or was it one after the other?
We crossed the line together.
Yeah,
joined.
By virtue of the fact that I started ahead of Rob, he beat me. It's a bit of a recurring theme of our rides together. He always beats me. To
be fair, Neil, that happened twice at the Wild West Country, where guys came in together and we're joint. I was like, you didn't start at the same time, did you? We didn't realise.
It's devastating for the guy who starts first, because it's like, oh no.
So everybody's chasing after them. Maybe it feels like. Yeah, and then Kevin, it's what was the question I was going to ask you? I put it here. It says, so we're going to go on to the weather now, because I know Marcia said, I'm going to talk about the weather. Don't you worry. We're really lucky.
I can't talk about a Kevin race without talking about the weather.
Did I say that just before the Southern Divide? I think I might have done.
I think it might have.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah. The baton could be passing over. The weather looks all right.
No, it didn't rain on the divide. It rained before the divide.
It rained a lot. Yeah, so and now the weather. Because I'm a geography nerd and I teach geography, and I like using the Met Office stats. So in March, like the dark blue areas indicate where we had more than double the average rainfall for that month. So the whole of the southern England was basically a bath. And then for some helpful reason, they must have known the Escapade was coming, and they decided to put a little bit of double the amount of rainfall in Kent for April as well. So just to make it extra particularly slippery for all of us. Thankfully, it's dried out though, isn't it, Kevin? It's looking all right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think it is my fault, because I was running an event in Maui at the time, and they had 3 times the normal rainfall in the 2 weeks that I was there.
You just had to stick that in. I happen to be in Maui.
I've been in Maui.
It could be anywhere. But that's the point. You expect decent weather there, and it didn't, because I was there.
I wasn't going to. I was going to put the southeast weather forecast. We won't do that, because we've all been looking at it so intently. I think just praying that we're not going to get any rain. The only issue appears to be a bit of wind, doesn't it? It looks like where we're going to be getting blown backwards off the South Downs when we're trying to get along to the end of it, which is just that's helpful, I suppose. Marcia, you said you got stuck on the South Downs. Was it in a thunderstorm?
Yes. Well, I was coming up close to Lewis, and I knew there was a thunderstorm, and it was coming into the evening, and I'd planned on bivvying out. But I also knew that I couldn't get off of the Downs to where I needed to be before the storm was due to come in. So in the end, I headed to Lewis and got a hotel, which unfortunately meant then that I got very comfy. I didn't leave very quickly, and then I just ran out of time. So I think I was late by at least a couple of hours, but I did make it round-ish, sort of. But yeah, but had it not been the thunderstorm, I would have got round in time because I would probably bivvied where I wanted to. I was quite prepared to bivvy on top of the South Downs, but not in an electrical storm.
With
And
a big metal tent pole.
Yeah, well, also I knew that there wasn't going to be anywhere to shelter because I knew which bit of the South Downs I was on, and there's just nothing there. Not even a hedge to hide behind, you know. So
Yeah.
I had no plans of getting stuck up there. So down I went to watch the thunder and the lightning from behind a glass window.
I think that's the good thing about the route, though, for people who are new to this. Thunderstorms aside, it does give you both options in terms of sleeping out or going and getting accommodation, and quite a unique way, really, because anywhere else where there's good wild camping options, there's generally not many hotels. But with this one, you really can go for either, and you can sleep as long as you're creative. On the South Downs, you've got loads of choices. Elsewhere, you just be a little bit creative. I think, Neil, you slept in a verge, and
I slept for 5 minutes, on the side of a verge as we were riding in. I said, "Oh my God, I've got to stop. I've got to stop." And Rob was like, "No, we're good. We're carrying on. I just need 5 minutes." And so we pulled over in this little village, and I just sat on this verge and literally closed my eyes for 5 minutes, and then woke up and said, "Right, let's go."
And it was
you
only
asked
5
me
minutes.
how long it had been,
Carry
and I think you said you thought it had been hours, and I was like, "No, it's 5 minutes."
Yeah, I thought it was like an hour and a half, and he said, "No, it's been 5 minutes." And that was after we had a very pleasant sleep in a school playground.
Well, no, you did. I didn't. I didn't have any sleeping kit, so I couldn't sleep.
You just stopped and watched
I would have left me behind, to be honest, Rob.
Well, yeah, but at that point, we sort of we declared a truce about, I don't know, about 10 hours previously. So I was like, I don't really want to just drop him.
You had.
So I just ate instead.
You were at the you were at the cafe just before you hit the South Downs Way. Can't think what it's called. Really nice, community owned and run place.
Oh, it's
I
the
remember
Graffham
seeing a
Village
video
door.
there.
Graffham, yeah.
No, it's not. It's before Graffham.
Oh, I know
It's
the one you
before you
mean.
cross the main road.
Is it something Larder or something like that?
Yeah, Lodsworth. Larder.
Yeah.
You were there, and I remember you were doing a video, and Neil Lauder was already at the other end of the South Downs Way somehow at that point. Yeah, and your truce had been declared pretty much before you'd hit the South Downs Way over breakfast, I think.
No, I hadn't stopped there, so I thought Rob was way ahead of me. And
no, that video was that was in the South Downs. That was
was it?
Yeah.
The cafe, in
Bosworth.
like the halfway point. What's it called?
Not quite Pycombe. Is it Crocombe just before that?
Yeah, so it's not quite halfway yet, but it was good way in. Yeah.
Rob and I met pushing up the climb up to Graffham, climbing over a tree that had come down.
Oh, the trees have gone now as well.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, because we'd upgraded from the first one. We ended up with 3 trees on that climb that had come down, but they've all gone now.
There was still one the last time I went over, but that was last year.
Yeah,
so that's why everyone's going faster than us, Neil.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Everyone will be riding that climb now.
Come back and do it again, Rob.
At the top of that climb is the place where on Saturday I found the only mud on the South Downs. So there
is mud.
There's still a little bit just at the top after that tree climbing thing at Graffham. That bit before you go down to the Cadence Cafe, there's still a little bit of mud up there, but it's not mud you can't get round. So it's
normally quite rutted, isn't it, up there?
It's really rough.
And you love a good tree to climb over, don't you, Marcia?
Yeah.
I see we've got some questions.
That is where the names come when I have to climb over a tree.
Yeah, let's we'll ask a couple of these questions, and then we'll get some. I've got a few questions that I've got for you guys. So Tess, who's a first timer, Kevin, so you stay right to the end for the cut off, don't you? And then I think you said you sort of hang around a little bit afterwards just in case there's someone coming.
Yeah, I mean, and where we are, we've got a few changes to the Escapade for this time, not least of all the start and finish location, but it's like 2 kilometers away from home. So, yeah, I mean, even we've obviously got the tracking, so the cut-off time is the cut-off time. But if I can see someone's going to be 10 minutes or even a couple of hours, it's close enough that I will still bob out and see someone to the finish. Wouldn't leave that alone.
Yeah, that's good to know, because that probably me, and as well as other people. And then has anyone got any intel, especially for the for bivvy spots, which you would obviously recommend it? Everyone will end up being there one after the other. Anywhere that you think is worth having a look, bearing in mind, obviously, we have to put it out there that wild camping is a civil offence, so you should be very careful and leave no trace. I want to put that out there. Anywhere particular that you would suggest is a nice spot that's all right for someone who's a first time bivvier?
Chanctonbury Fort is beautiful.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure you go the right way when you come out of it the next morning.
that sounds like an anecdote, Neil.
Oh, he wouldn't be the first person to go the wrong way, would he, after waking up?
We're on the Great British Divide in 21. I was super excited. I'd made it to Chanctonbury, which is 225k into the first day, which, given we had a late start, was I was pleased with. And I set my bivvy, got my 3 hours sleep, woke up, didn't reject my alarm, so that was good. Jumped up, got on my bike, and I live not too far away, so I thought I knew exactly where I was going, and rode out. And my Garmin kept saying, "You're going the wrong way." I'm like, "No, I'm not. This is stupid." And I kept arguing with my Garmin for a good 10 minutes as I descended the hill, and then realised I could see the pig farm that I'd ridden past the previous night, and turned around feeling like a right idiot.
So how far did you go back before you realised? Sorry,
It probably cost me about 40 minutes, that little mistake. Okay. So 10 minutes downhill, 5 minutes arguing with the Garmin, and then 25 minutes riding back uphill again,
cursing and effing and jeffing.
Cursing and swearing, yeah. And it's easy to let that kind of thing affect you for the rest of the day, because you feel like an absolute idiot. But still, it's a beautiful bivvy spot.
And I think the whole route, actually, you go through, whilst you're never that far from civilization, there's a lot of very rural stuff, and there's a lot of good bivvying spots, really all the way round, to be honest. Yeah. If you're creative with it and sensible with it.
If you get stuck if you're struggling going through the night the first night, in some of the woods along the North Downs Way, there's a visitor centre, and that's actually got some it's got like a little open bit round the back with benches and stuff. So actually, especially, I mean, if it's raining, but it's not going to rain this time round, but even if it is raining, it's a nice dry spot to literally just roll out a sleeping bag or whatever and get an hour and crack on. I managed, in the yellow bit, about halfway down the yellow bit, I managed to find a barn and bivvied in there, which again was just as well, because it was just starting to rain, so that was handy.
But I mean, I think
there's all sorts of places about.
Yeah, in terms of tips, look for barns, look for shelter, look for bus stops. I think when you're in any of the remoter sections, you're going to be there at kind of like midnight. There's going to be nobody up there. All you'll hear, as I think Andrew has said in his comments, is the sound of other cyclists. I've got a great one on that. I remember first ever race I ever did in Oman, coming past, saw the guy ahead of me who was in fifth place, and he was asleep on the top of a wall by the side of the motorway. And in my astonishment, I just freewheeled past him, and the noise of my freewheel woke him up. And he woke up, looked like a startled meerkat, jumped on his bike and chased after me. Ever since then, I've put a lot more grease in my free hub.
Another tip I would say, because this happened to me on an Audax, when I power nap, I tend to power nap sleeping up. I curl up in a little ball and I power nap sleeping up. And all I wanted was 15 minutes. And at least 2 people came and tapped on me and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" These were other cyclists. I mean, did they not know? Don't wake somebody up if they're having a sleep.
Yes, let them be.
Let them be.
Right, where are we going? I'm going to get to the right slide now. Right, so, oh no, last, you've almost seen the question. Right, so we're going to play a little game, which I thought, rather than just a list of questions, I'll jazz it up a bit and we'll play a question of bikes. So,
Do you have the music?
I would have put the music on, but I couldn't. It wouldn't let me put it on, and I was worried that YouTube might, block it because of who knows. I was freaking out. So the idea is here: you got 4 bikes. You've got a nice hardtail. It's symbolic of a gravel bike, full sus, and a fat bike. My friend who I was supposed to do the Escapade with was going to do it on a kind of plus bike, which it sounds like a BMW is behind you when it's going along a road. But sadly, you can't do it. So I won't have that pleasure. But the idea is that you can choose a bike, and behind each bike there is a question for you to answer. So Marcia, pick a bike.
Top left.
Top left. So hardtail. All right. Okay. So your question is a shop, pub, or place you liked visiting along the route, a helpful stop off somewhere.
Oh, I'm trying to think the name of the place. It's before you get to Newham. Is it Newham's Corner?
Newlands Corner.
Yeah, just before there's actually a like a cafe that it's on the North Downs and it just overlooks everything, and it's just beautiful. And they've got loos and they've got shop. It's an outdoor cafe, and I can't think what it's called.
Is that Reigate?
That's the one.
Reigate Hill?
Yeah, Reigate Hill.
Just before you then climb up, and there's like a bandstand and then beautiful views over the downs.
That's exactly.
Yeah, Reigate.
Now that is a great place for a morning coffee. You'll be coming out of the so that'll be Friday morning. Well, for those of you who are slower, if you're quicker, you'll already be in Dorking. But but if you're like me, you'll be there when they open, and that's a really nice place for a coffee and just sit and just chill, and you can fill up your water, and that's one of my favourites.
Awesome.
On the route.
Thank you. Right, back to that. So we've had the
Do
hardtail.
we not all get to answer all the questions?
No, I don't know. We can come around and have a go at all of it if you want to. Has anyone got another one? A nice place that they enjoyed.
Well, I haven't got a nice place, but that did remind me that it's quite hard to find water once you leave. So everyone, when you're on the Downs, there's this whole thing about South Downs, there's only limited water spots, and we all downloaded the map or got the link or whatever. But actually, when you left the South Downs, going into the night, I'm sure Neil remembers, we couldn't find water for an hour. Like I think we had to jump into the. What did I jump into, like the garden of the pub that was closed?
As if I'm
oh no, I
of
did
this,
it. Yeah, I did that.
this criminality.
Yeah, and had to use their outside tap because there was nowhere. And that's probably just timing as well.
Outside taps in pubs are very helpful, especially when they're shut. As long as you can get around the back.
Yeah, I did have to jump a wall or something, and there was CCTV. So, one day I'll get repercussions for that. But yeah, that is worth noting if you are doing that last stretch after you leave. What's the end of the cycle trail?
Once you're off of Heathfield direction, Heathfield really up to. Well, really, it depends on your timings. Heathfield all the way back in, you're a bit slim actually.
We didn't stop. We didn't have anything. There was nothing open. No, I didn't see anywhere we could have got anything. Not even any like public toilets or anything. There was nothing in that stretch.
I mean, when you and Neil did it, of course, we were still sort of semi-lockdown, and then we started to lock down again still, and things weren't open. So there's definitely more things that are open now around the whole route than they were back then. But
probably not at 1 a.m.
No, not at 1 a.m. But your point stands that actually from Heathfield up to Charing, really, there's very little. There's a couple of bits in Charing.
Charing, if we'd hung around there, I think stuff was about to open. Mind you, we did go do that bit quite slowly, so most people probably wouldn't do that stretch at the speed we did.
Because I was falling asleep.
I mean, that wasn't that much better.
Is your friend still going to be around, Kevin? Is it Graham? No, the guy in the camper van.
Oh yeah.
He's now spent like the last 2 years traveling the world.
Yeah, I've not heard anything from him, so I'm not sure if he's back or not.
There was kind of an unofficial water stop on one of the climbs between Sevenoaks and Merstham, and you would come onto this hill and be climbing up it, and it'd usually be dark and a little bit misty, and then out of the mist would loom this camper van, and he was there with his dog and a whole welcoming array of treats for you to tuck into, mainly water and jelly babies.
Yeah, it's the highest finished route. It's a place called Titsy, and it's the
and then
very highest spot.
The last time I did the race, I knew that he was off traveling the world, and I was just thinking, oh, gee, I'm going to struggle here. I might have to do emergency stop in Merstham. And the next thing I know, this car comes the other way to me up this really tiny lane, and they're just handing out water bottles. And I've no idea if they knew about it or didn't know about it, but I'm riding along, and he just gives me this 500 milliliter water bottle, and it's like, excellent. That will get me through to checkpoint 1.
Gotta love a trail angel.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Marcia, that's why you went first, didn't you, Marcia?
Okay,
so Rob, pick a bike.
My answer to this question is definitely going to be Hazelmere. I know this is why I wanted to answer the question. Hazelmere petrol station.
Right.
24
Hazelmere petrol station is like an oasis of goodness that for those who are on a no-stop strategy, you'll hit Hazelmere sometime between like 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and it'll be your first major resupply. And I've stopped there every single time, and it's always raining, pretty much. I've stopped there when it's raining a lot and a little, but it's amazing. It's coffee and hot food, and a real welcoming end to the end of that first night of racing.
Awesome. Sorry, Neil, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's all right. I just, I wanted to get my answer out there.
You're giving everybody helpful tips as well. It's what it's all
I know.
about.
I'm going to send a bit later.
Rob, pick a bike.
I'm going to pick the gravel bike to wind up Neil.
Right. So the one thing everyone should have on them, other than the required essential bits.
Depends what you consider required. I mean, the one thing I forgot, which most people probably say required, is I didn't take any electrolyte or salt tabs the first time. No. I was on a hardtail the first time, and I really regretted that. But that, I think most people would consider that required. I don't really know. I mean, it depends on the conditions, really, doesn't it? Because the first time we had perfect weather, I basically packed for a day ride and didn't need anything more. So
and the next time you needed 3 sets of brake pads minimum.
Next time, to be honest, next time it wouldn't have mattered what kit I had. I was going to think of a reason to scratch because it was miserable. I think that's the honest truth. So no, I think you can get away on the bare minimum, but equally, if you want to do it like a proper bike packing adventure and take a full tent and cooking stuff, we've seen people do that. It's still perfectly feasible. Just gear for the extra kit, I would say.
Oh, we've got a cat. Marcia's
yes,
cat's fantastic. Marcia, you won't be bringing a cat. Is there any like a luxury item or something that you'd always take with you on a like the Escapade or any other trip?
Paddington,
yes, Paddington. Actually, to be fair, Paddington hasn't been on my trips this year. I need to reattach him. He's not very happy. He's been sat in my van. I don't know really. I know one thing that I wouldn't take, that I do tend to take on longer rides. One thing I wouldn't take is a stove. And I'm somebody who likes to be able to boil up some water, have a cup of tea. I do like a cup of tea. And I would take just a little tiny stove with me for most things. But on this particular one, there are so many places to get food and drink, including hot drinks, that it's one thing you really don't need. You're never really more than half an hour from, I say civilization, but from a shop really, just by virtue of where it is. So you can be riding the route and not come across anything for hours, but actually, as soon as you go off the route, there's loads of stuff. So if you want to save weight, I'd say don't bother with the stove.
Right.
For those that are thinking about it.
I see. There's been some chat about that on the group, so
yes.
We'll see. See if it changes any minds.
That's why I thought about it, and I was like, you really don't want all that stuff. And I pack for everything, and I wouldn't take a stove.
Right, Neil. I know which one you're going to pick, because you've nailed your
I'm gonna
colours to
go
the
for
mast
full
on this. Full sus.
I'm gonna
So
go
this
for
is the
what a
bike to do
surprise,
the
Neil.
Escapade on. Right. So what is your favourite aspect of the Escapade? Whether
Oh.
that's a bit of the route or more like just like the whole bikepacking experience, the culture of it. In particular with the Escapades, because it's a slightly I guess, is it a bit different to other rides? I'm new to this, so I don't really know.
So I think my favourite aspect of it is the start time. It's a 5 p.m. start, which basically encourages everybody to think about riding through the night. It's not everybody will do. Like TCR starts 10 o'clock at night, so really you're all riding through the first night. 5 p.m. you've got choices. You can ride for 7 or 8 hours, bivvy at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's fine. Or you're still not that tired, so you can push straight through the first night. And I think that's a really good aspect to it, because it encourages everybody to consider that as an option and think about their strategy. And yeah, I've had the best time has been that first section, the first 220k from the start to Hazelmere, which used 5 p.m. through till 7 o'clock in the morning, so 14 hours, and it's always been mad. I remember the first ever Escapades, just chasing after people through the little single track sections on the North Downs at 1 o'clock in the morning and having the best time. I remember me and Rob and Andy and a few others in the pouring rain on the second one, and it just being hilarious, and then crashing heavily, and you arrive at Kevin's van at just after Ditchling, and not Ditchling, Box Hill, and just it's just nuts. So yeah, I think for me it's that evening start time. I think that really it just gives it an element that it makes it unique for people.
Awesome. Tess has asked, if you are pushing through the night, do you grab a quick 5-minute nap somewhere, or obviously, well, it depends on the person, I suppose, doesn't it? But is that a good option?
Yeah, it's an excellent option. A 20-minute nap can be very, very restorative, although you are likely to need it just before the sun comes up. So I think the sun's going to come up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. The most likely time you'll need a nap is 4 o'clock in the morning. The body clock is an amazing thing. As soon as the sun comes up, you're awake. You can be literally the depths of sleepfulness 20 minutes earlier. The sun comes up and suddenly you're like, I'm awake. That's fine. And then you carry on. So it's really, really rare that you do then need to nap the next morning. What you may need to do is nap the next afternoon, because when you get to like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when the kind of the sleep monsters and the nodding donkey kind of come back to you. So yeah, at that point, 20 minutes. If you're on the South Downs, just like have a sleep in the sun. It's perfect. Find a little bench, whatever. Have a little nap, and it can make a very big change to your outlook.
Awesome. Kevin, can I ask you this one as well? Actually, obviously this is your baby. And what has there been any kind of unexpected things you've gone, oh, that's really cool about the Escapades, that maybe something you weren't like expecting to come out of it?
There's been a few things that have been really cool. I mean, the first one actually was, Neil's referenced it, was our little trail angels out on the track, which you see and hear of in far more established events, but we had multiple instances of people that were following it on the first one, September 2020. Bearing in mind, we particularly as we still back end of, well, not even back end of COVID, but we're only just coming out and about again, and yet there were still people out in the middle of the night or in the middle of the following days on the trail, that baking cakes for people, or waters, coffees, and what have you. Was really sort of heartwarming, and it was a proper thrill to see that happening for me on the an event that's popped up out of nowhere, and it's been supported in that way, and that's that's continued, and I think it is just it's the vibe of the event more than anything else. What I wanted to create has sort of washed through, and we kind of see that with things like, I put the kiss of death on this now, but on the on the Facebook group and on our WhatsApp group, you put a large number of people together in those sort of forums, and you always get a contingent that are just proper keyboard warriors or whatever. There's none of that either, which is just really nice. I think it's just, we are what we are. We've nailed our colours to the mast, and we seem to attract those sort of people that just want to be there and have a good time and just enjoy it. And that for me is just, enjoying it, having a bit of an adventure, not taking it too seriously. And those it's what I wanted, but I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that it exists and it's prevailed through the first 5 at least.
Yeah, brilliant. One last question then, and we can all dive in on this one, on the Fat/Plus bike. Was I think we sort of talked about this a little bit already, but best and worst moments. We've kind of covered this a bit, but yeah, best moments, highlights, things that you enjoyed really about the escapades. Or a worst, if you want.
I've got one that
doesn't
really fit in the category, but I just remembered
go on,
we were
Rob,
talking about South Downs. That I don't know if you remember this, Neil, but we were going up a very, very steep climb, and there was a guy who decided to go rambling, and he was a very liberated rambler. And he was completely stark naked. And the one thing you see these people, okay, you do the British thing of politely looking away, but you're going at like 3 kilometers an hour uphill trying to go past it. And it was quite surreal. I just it doesn't go best or worst, but it was just
he
very
was
odd.
The naked rambler. He literally just had a rucksack on, and the rest of him was stark bollock naked.
Interestingly, someone encountered a stark bollock naked rambler last June, and because there was some chat on the WhatsApp group about this earlier today, and then on Saturday between 10:30 and 3 there is a naked walk / ramble that's coming down the Cuckoo Trail. So for anyone that's hooning up the Cuckoo Trail after the South Downs from late morning on Saturday through to the early afternoon, is going to get more than they were bargaining for.
Don't go parking your bike, kids. Do not go parking your bike in any orifices.
They're walking south, so it's you're going to get the full.
At least they're going to see us coming at that point. They're going to hear it. They're going to see us before they hear us. Hopefully,
a brief Google search turns up many instances of naked ramblers on the South Downs Way.
It must be a thing that hopefully we're not going to have any naked escapaders, and that will be one thing we can hopefully avoid. That would be
that's all a bit
uncomfortable. I think that's all the questions that I had on there. We had a couple of lovely questions from people in the chat as well, but I guess that kind of covers it. Kevin, any last minute bits of information for people, or any little things? I'm not going to answer that question. We'll move on from that one. So we've done. Sorry, I'm going to get to the right slide. I've gone through these. Sorry, it's just my PowerPoint skills. What's the one thing everyone should remember to bring on Thursday, other than a bike?
A good attitude and a smile, and get ready for an adventure. Basically, that would be.
Excellent.
Yeah. Joe's just shouting in the background, "Go easy on the volunteers." So and so there's a couple of new things for this year which are worth mentioning. So we've changed the start and finish location. We've looked at the stats that we've got from the 5 previous editions. Kind of knew this anyway, but properly looked at it. About 80% of our riders finish outside of cafe opening times where we've been in the past. So been all right at the start, but in the point of finishing, they've been closed, and no one's been particularly keen to stay open later or open early around here, at least. So we made the decision to bite the bullet, and we've hired a village hall which has newly been refurbed. It's on the route anyway. It's literally just down the road, and it's really nice. So we're going to start and finish there, and we've literally got a 24-hour base camp for it, and we're going to run our own small little food and beverage offering. It's kind of what I do for a grown-up job anyway, so makes sense to do a little bit of that as well. So yeah, Joe's going to be leading that with a little band of helpers, which will be nice. And I think that, regardless of whether you finish at morning, mid-morning when something would be open anyway and have a breakfast, or you roll in at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you still get a cup of coffee and a bite to eat.
I mean, and what's more English than starting and finishing in an English village hall?
Yeah,
exactly.
Than
something in England. Yeah.
So that's a real nice feature of it. And we've got a new checkpoint 1. So the Pilgrim Cycle's closed now at Box Hill. So we should have been going to Guildford Rugby Club to a sort of a pop-up coffee shop place, a bit like the Cadence places, I guess, at the rugby club, which is owned and run by a friend of mine. His mum sadly died a while ago, but the funeral's just come up for this coming Friday when we'd be opening it. But they've got their main branch is at Farncombe railway station, so they're opening that at 2 o'clock in the morning for us. So again, almost regardless of what time anyone comes through that checkpoint in the first night / morning, there's a food and drink offering, which is I think it's a nice addition to it. What else? Oh, and we're going through Rochester now. The Medway Bridge cycle path is supposed to be being made safer and worked on at the moment. Ironically, they've not actually started the works yet, but which is a shame, because I think it's quite an unusual thing to do. However, you're going through Rochester quite late at night. It's quite quiet, and go past the castle over the old bridge, and then there is the joy of the 24-hour McDonald's just after that, which I think will be well frequented. I certainly plan to go there and get some pictures of people at that point. And then
I have to say, as a rider going over the bridge, it's always been frustrating when you can see how far down below that 24-hour McDonald's is, and you're like, there's no way I'm going down there just to get a burger and come back up again.
Yeah,
it's a long way down from the bridge. So yeah, that was
it is. So
frustrating.
That I think is, well, we'll see how it goes. It might be a worthwhile permanent change to the route, because there's various resupply bits down there. There's a Premier in there, and I know some riders. I think, are you using that, Dan?
Yeah. We won't talk about that. I'm doing it the very beginner's style Escapade, I think we can call it, because I'm slow enough already. So yeah. So hats off to everybody who's going to camp and bivvy, because I'm not quite at that standard yet.
So. That therein lies the beauty of the Escapade. There's just do it how you want to do it. Really get round. Each has its advantage, each has its disadvantages, and it's that's cool with us, and that's another important part of it for me. If that makes a gateway to someone to come and do an event like this and have a first dabble, then that's only a good thing, I think. Yeah. And it's a bit of an entry drug, the Escapade, I think, into bigger and sillier things.
Awesome. Well, we've talked for an hour, which is fantastic. Thank you so much, all of you, for giving up your evening. Obviously, it's the end of the bank holiday, but yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight, your expertise, and I wish you all a lovely rest of the summer. Hope to see you around again. And everyone who's tuned in, we've had loads of people watching. It's been quite exciting, actually. That's quite lovely. So thank you very much. And we'll kind of bring it to a close there. And anyone else who's got any last little minute things they want to throw in?
I've got one, Dan. Just a thank you from me, especially, of putting the effort and time into to do this. So I certainly appreciate it, and it's nice to bring these other guys into it that are running similar sort of styles of events in their own way as well. Which we are all quite similar in our own individual ways of what we're doing. So it's nice just to showcase some really good British riding, I think, generally. And Neil obviously is one of our partners of my events, so it's always nice to have his participation in things, and he doesn't just talk it, he walks it as well. That's for sure. So it's always nice to have his participation. But yeah, again, just thank you for taking the time to set it up and
not at all.
give us the opportunity
been
to talk about what we do.
Yeah,
and good luck yourself, Dan.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Remember to look around and enjoy it, and you chose to be there.
I did,
Yeah.
I'm pleased to say,
I like that little reminder. It was your choice.
while we were on air, my producer, my wife, brought me a note that said that I've managed to pass my £1,000 target for my fundraising efforts that I've been doing. So I'm
Hey, well done.
so I'm quite pleased about. So that means I've got a bit of fire in my belly to get round, because one person said, if you don't finish, do we get a refund? So I've got to make sure I get to the end.
Well, I'll wave you through Alfriston, because I should be down there in the van.
Awesome.
Till Sunday morning. So
yeah, I'll be there
unless,
Saturday afternoon, hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you get through Friday night, in which case, or Friday evening, you won't see me.
No, I'm taking my time. I'm using all of those 74 hours. Nearly all of them, I reckon, to get to the end, all being well.
And
so
one other thing I've just thought of, which is going to be interesting to watch, Harry Johnson, if any of you remember him from last June, who was the lunatic that turned up on a Trek Madone and
smashed it.
He's learned his lesson. He's got a hardtail mountain bike this year, but he doesn't appear to put any kit on it.
Has now got a hardtail mountain bike. Remarkably, the Madone is still functional and working as well, which is just extraordinary. I think it will be interesting to see what he does. He's mates with Ollie, who's got the fastest time from last year. At the pointy end, I think he's going to, particularly if it rains dry, he's going to be on fire, because he's got not very much on his bike from the picture. And
that's the end. So go on then. So 26-ish hours is the FKT. Do we think we're going to go faster? We've got this woolly headwind, but do we think we're going to get a faster time?
I remember talking to Neil about this when we did that call, Neil, back in 2020, and I was thinking there was probably a 30-hour time in it. You weren't quite so sure. Neil Lauder did it in 29:34 in near perfect conditions at the end of a summer when all we'd done, all of us, was ride our bikes, and
he had a headwind as well on the downs. We had a headwind on the downs.
He had a headwind, and also he was on a gravel bike with very narrow tyres, which I don't think is the fastest choice. So no, I think, and we know we're learning more and more about how to race these things. So given the conditions, I think we could see a new fastest time.
Yeah, I think we could. I'm just looking to see exactly what the time was. It was 26 hours and 8 minutes. And Ollie, in the last bit of woods before you come out into the orchard just before Bridge, had a puncture that he spent 15 minutes faffing with to get it going. So, and he was super annoyed about that. And then when we took the picture of him, he looked at the picture and said, "Oh, can you do it again? I look fat." There's nothing of Ollie. He was super competitive. So there's definitely a sub 26 in there. I don't know. I wouldn't like to say how much.
You've laid down the challenge now, haven't you? Someone's going to go for it.
Well, I know. That's why I mentioned it. I know Harry is definitely going to be going for that. I don't know how much faster you really could go. You've got to have optimum conditions and literally all the stars align.
Yeah, it'll be flawless.
All the way through, and with so many riders this time, the stories, the different experiences, and the different levels of experience in the field is going to make it fascinating, I think. So super excited.
Awesome. Right, well, it only leaves to say see you in Beaksbourne on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah,
Kevin,
we'll
look forward to it. Brilliant. Thank you all so much. I realised I carried on recording, but I will end the broadcast there. Say thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.